Hello everybody and welcome to the vocabulary terms that are coming from ADoll's house. We're actually dividing this into two separate units, so this is unit 15 and you can use the slides that I sent you if you wish in order to go through these definitions together. Okay? All right, first word is aloof. To hold yourself aloof is to not be very friendly. You're kind of separated and isolated. And you're not forthcoming. It's kind of like that person who's hanging out in the corner. They're very cool and distant, right? You could say that in a problem, there are times when Sasha seems to be aloof, especially when he's outside the study. He doesn't seem to care whether anything is going on for him. If it be Siberia, let it be Siberia, he says. Amicably means amity, friendly, ami, right? Means to be friendly with someone. So if you part on amicable terms, you mean that it's in a friendly or peaceable manner. You've left each other on good terms, in other words, if it's amicably. You could say, in a way, Prospero and Antonio are brought together amicably at the end, even though Antonio doesn't show any signs of remorse, Prospero has extended his forgiveness to him. To do something to no avail or to avail someone of something is to help them or to benefit from it. If you search for something to no avail, you're searching for it without finding it. You could say, even in the story A Problem, Ivan Markovitch tried to help Sasha to no avail, to no benefit, because at the end, Sasha behaves in a beastly, in a beastly way. Very unkind. A malicious way, an unpleasant way, when he demands more rubles from his uncle after his uncle has put his neck out for him. It's kind of beastly of him, isn't it? To be bedridden, obviously, is to be confined to one's bed, right? Usually because of illness or old age. Sadly, Henrik Heine, the author of The Lorelei, was bedridden rather young in his life because he suffered from an incurable disease, and he had to dictate his poetry to his little mouse, he called her, his little helper. So he was bedridden. Bric-a-brac. Bric-a-brac are knickknacks, miscellaneous objects, that you might keep on a shelf, for example. They're usually not of much value. I guess you could say trifles from college writing, right? Ornaments of little value. If you remember the Glass Menagerie from sophomore year, I would imagine that in Laura's mind, her glass figurines are not, they're much more than bric-a-brac to her. They're not just bric-a-brac. She attaches great meaning to them, especially the unicorn there. To live according to one's caprice is to live according to one's whims. So a caprice is a sudden or unaccountable change of mood. A caprice is a whim. You may not be able to judge how people are feeling if they're capricious because they're very unpredictable. Even Ivan Markovitch says something in a problem to the other uncles. Haven't you understood the caprices of youth? How we were so sort of up and down and spontaneous. Clandestine is secret, usually in a kind of illicit way, something that is done secretly or kept secret. Montresor's plan is clandestine. He's going to wall Fortunato alive in the catacombs. Anything that's kept secret is said to be clandestine. Conspiracy is a secret plan that is known to only a few. People are talking about these conspiracy theories now, right? It's known only by a certain group. And it's often to do something some kind of conspiracy, most of the time will be unlawful. We talk about the conspiracy that was struck between, or among, I should say, Sebastian, Antonio, and Alonso, the conspiracy that deposed Prospero those 12 years ago. If someone is depraved, you could say that they're morally corrupt. To get away from a problem for a minute, even though Sasha could be called depraved, we can think about the souls in hell and Dante's hell. They're morally corrupt, right? They're depraved, although Dante is not too comfortable with that in the beginning. When a teacher goes on a digression, that means that they are straying from the subject. So a temporary departure from the topic is called a digression from the main subject, to be on a tangential. We can ask ourselves, is the flood a digression in the Epic of Gilgamesh? It seems to be stuck in there, but it does explain how Utnapishtim was given eternal life, and therefore I don't believe it's a digression. Some people think the mask in The Tempest is a digression, but again, I find that there's a point to it. To dissemble is to pretty much lie, to conceal your true motives. To be deceptive is to dissemble. If you go back to the Canterbury Tales, the partner is very good at dissembling. Everybody knows that he's lying about those relics because he confessed it in the beginning. But then he conceals his true motive and starts selling them there. Dissolution. You can see the word dissolve here. The dissolution is the closing down or removal of something. The dissolution of the Union was Lincoln's greatest worry. The breakdown of it. The dissolving of it, you could say. Domestic is anything that relates to running the household, relating to the running of a home, of a family. In college writing, that little short play, the mystery is solved through examining domestic materials, isn't it? With Mrs. Peters and Mrs. Hale, they're just going through the things that Mrs. Wright dealt with in order to figure out whether or not she killed her husband. Domestic, relating to home or family. We'll see this in A Doll's House as well. This is really not a challenging word at all, because I think everybody knows dread, right? Dreadful means causing great fear or suffering or unhappiness. You'll see this word come up quite often when Nora is talking about the past and how things were dreadful for her. To do something earnestly is to do it with sincere and intense conviction. To be in earnest. I think in the Inferno, Virgil tells Dante earnestly that he's got to, he's got to protect himself for the visions that he's going to see. Again, next one is not a very difficult word. You probably know this from arts and crafts. Embroidery is the art of sewing a stitch design on something. It comes up in A Doll's House, and I guess we just wanted to make sure that you guys knew what embroidery looks like. There's usually a little circle around the cloth. We can also use embroidery as a different way, in a different meaning. It means to sort of exaggerate or the embellishment of an event. I don't want to hear your embroidery about it. You have a fanciful embroidery of the facts, you might say. And then we have a couple more. Evasion has as its root word evade. So that's the act of avoiding something. Tax evasion, for example. You want to avoid paying your taxes. When something is frightful, it's very unpleasant. Again, some of these are so easy. I don't even think you're going to have to look some of them over, like this one. When something is very serious or frightful or shocking or unpleasant. They're all kind of the same situation. I mean, in Lord of the Flies, you could say Piggy's death is dreadful and it's frightful and it's, shocking and all those things. To be frivolous is to not be very serious. Anything that's not having a serious purpose or value to it, excuse me. Torvald calls Nora frivolous in A Doll's House. To do something forthwith is to do it immediately, without haste, without delay. For example, Priam fetches Hector's body forthwith. Take this note forthwith to Lady Macbeth, says Macbeth at the early part of the play. To answer something in an impertinent manner or to behave impertinently is to not show proper respect, to be obnoxious, to be rude. I didn't expect you to behave impertinently. And to be incredulous is to be unwilling or unable, most of the time it's unable, to believe something. You might find it incredulous that there is a woman combing her golden hair with a gold comb at the top of the cliff off the Rhine River. Might be a little bit too much for you to bear, so you find yourself incredulous over it. Okay, so that's the first set of words that correspond to A Doll's House. Unit 15, Unit 16 will be its own separate entity. Thank you.